All right, let's see what we got here. Okay, looks like we are set up. Everything is looking pretty good. Cool. All right. All right. Cool. All right. I'm excited. Okay. So, let's see here. Going over everything in my mind now. Checklist in my brain. Well, we'll just give it a go. First and foremost, welcome everybody. Let's see here. Well, my name is gonna start again. Everybody, welcome again. It's been a while since I've been on this channel. This is Solace, and today, what we're gonna be doing, well, basically tomorrow, as the stream title informs you, is the Be Someone Superhero, a charity event. This year, we're gonna be raising money for the ACLU, the American Civil Liberties Union. Very, very relevant organization to raise money for, especially in these current times politically with the current presidential administration and their moves when it comes to moves, especially involving the violation of basically folks' civil rights, violation of constitutional due process, so on and so forth. It's very relevant to go with an organization to raise money for, such as the ACLU, who's actually, if I recall, the origins are very much tied to the very same subject. So it's very poetic and apt, to go with that. And I'm hoping. Hang on, let me double check this. I'm trying to. There we go. There we go. Okay. Just want to make sure. I want music in the background because I don't want dead air. At the same time, I want to make sure it's not so much that it overpowers what I'm saying. So, anyway, my apologies for that. So, however, for this year, I'm unable to do any streaming for the event. So, kind of want to sort of make up for it and maybe kick things off a little bit. So I have myself two topics of discussion, two topics just throw out there for some fun content and conversation. Feel free to throw out your own thoughts and whatnot. If you're here live in the chat, and if you see this on other forms like on YouTube, feel free to say in the comments what your thoughts are, and we'll go ahead and have some fun with that. So it's one of those things that's just like a little bit of fun. Let's relax, just chill. Let's just go about it. A little behind the scenes, I had a previous idea for one topic to go through. However, I'm like, you know what? The event is called Be Someone Superhero. Let's stick to more superhero themed conversations. So that's basically what we're doing right here, right now. All right. So, like I said, I have two topics that we're going to go through. First topic is, as you see on the screen, right there, it is who would Solace, myself, add to Marvel Rivals. Hopefully everybody is at least aware of Marvel Rivals. It is the hero shooter brought out by NetEase Games and along with Marvel Games. So basically Marvel is the publisher, Marvel/Disney is the publisher, and NetEase Games is the actual developers handling and running the actual game itself. And to my knowledge, they also worked with Overwatch, as they were the Chinese side handling Chinese version of Overwatch, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so feel free to correct me. I don't know in depth Overwatch's history and stuff like that. So you're more than welcome to correct me if I make absolutely no sense. Okay, let me see here. There we go. Okay. Just leaving the door open in case any of other folks from the community want to jump on in and join the conversation. To be fair, though, I'm just trying to bullet point as I have my certain schedule for today, but let's just go through it and have fun. Anyone wants to join me, they are welcome to join me and, share their thoughts. Okay, so, as I said, this is topic number one. This is my character wish list as of now. Now, another bit of behind-the-scenes info is that this topic was a topic that I was thinking about creating an article, but that requires me writing, and I'm having a tough time doing that for quite some time now. And then it just got even worse because March was a very rough month for me, and I still feel the ramifications of it to some degree. So But anyway, yeah, this is my character wish list. I had thought about this roughly around the time that the game launched, but now as we've so much time has passed by and certain characters have been added, I've had to throw out certain characters because we got them. So therefore, it is what it is. Like for example, members of the Fantastic Four, but that was like practically the first season of characters being added was the Fantastic Four, which I'm very happy about. So hey, there we go, boom. And then Gambit was also going to be a part of this list. However, he was added to the game recently, last season, and the one thing that was kind of funny was I did think of him more as a duelist, so I'm thinking more of like a Grenadier type of character, similar to Squirrel Girl, I was thinking. Yeah, then they brought him in as a healer, which was interesting, or at least someone who, the best work is obviously with healing, but then again, Gambit does have some offensive capabilities too, so that's pretty cool. Okay, so that was some of the behind the scenes for this wish list. I would like to give some praise to NetEase, as they are definitely, them and Marvel working together have definitely gone to great lengths to get many of the obvious choices to add to the roster, but at the same time also changing things up with characters that you probably wouldn't expect to be added in. Like launch, we had Squirrel Girl and Jeff. And that's like, wait, what? It's like, okay, they're willing to go anywhere in the roster to get characters. So I definitely want to praise them. Some of my character choices I'm putting up on this list, maybe like boring by comparison, but I do know there are some who are more obscure than others. So we're gonna go ahead through the list and just have some fun with it. And hopefully you guys enjoy. Hopefully there's a nice conversation of what characters you would like to see introduced into Rivals, and maybe some ideas of how they would play. Now again, with characters such as Gambit being made into a healer, aka strategist, that means that you can have more freedom with what's going on. With what kind of role they would have. One could argue that my idea of Gambit as a duelist would be kind of obvious and such. So as you guys are doing this discussion, thinking about it, feel free to go ahead and think outside the box. There you go. I think that's the best way of putting it. Think outside the box, and we'll see how it goes. Okay. All right. So let's go ahead and get the ball rolling with our first character. Nightcrawler as a duelist. Yes. Now, real quick pause, quick timeout. As we're talking about this, I want to make one thing clear. I acknowledge and I agree that Marvel Rivals has, I believe it was described as like the Overwatch problem, where there are too many DPS characters compared to the other two roles. Now, DPS, aka duelist, too many of them. I mean, there was practically I think double the amount of characters in that category versus the other two categories combined. I think it almost was at launch. So they've gotten better, but there's still a lot more duelists than there is Vanguard, aka tank, and strategist, aka support/healing. So I acknowledge that one. I'm kicking things off with a duelist character, or a character I would put into the duelist category. However, I will give you a nice little spoiler right now. This is one of only 2 characters that I will have as duelists. Everybody else that you will see on this list will be either Vanguard, aka tank, or strategist, aka support, aka support/healer. Okay? So yeah, this is the only this is one of 2. We're not going to go that far, alright? So, first things first, Nightcrawler, my favorite X-Men. I love them so much. And I was like, no, I have to have him in this game. Absolutely have to have him in this game. Now, for Nightcrawler, what I would probably do for him, we got a little taste of that, of his possible capabilities with the character of Black Cat. Black Cat has a sort of like leaping attack that jumped right back to spot to where she was. The camera doesn't move. The camera doesn't follow. So it's not a true teleport. It's more like a long range melee hit, and it comes right back to where she was before. So, to me, I'm thinking we have something similar to that as some of his mechanics. Also, him with having his swords in play. So he's teleporting in, slashing, teleporting away, big mobility, big movement. Essentially, I would actually want Nightcrawler to be on par with Spider-Man in terms of mobility. Because to me, as I think about Spidey and some of the other characters who, if we were in the world of Paladins, these guys would be flankers. They're the dive DPS. That's what they do. So Nightcrawler being on par with Spidey in terms of speed and be able to traverse the map, I think is what I really would want to go for. Nightcrawler's would be the one to go in there, get into the back line, literally teleport in and teleport out, as opposed to Spidey with the crazy tech that the high-level Spidey players do, which is like insane, and you just go in there and boom, 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 and then get back out. Hey, Crimson! So yeah, right off the bat, Nightcrawler, I think definitely a dive duelist, gets in there, teleports. His ult can easily be a like basically rapid fire to like, I think he's similar to like X-Men Legends 2. Yes, I love Nightcrawler as well. Yep. You're not alone, Crimson. But yeah, something like X-Men Legends 2 where he's just like popping around, hitting everybody like rapidly. So maybe something that would give you a similar vibe to Psylocke, but maybe faster, I think could be. Which also be kind of relevant considering that Nightcrawler having his swords, 2 swords in his hands and 1 on his tail would be fun. So I'm also could think of maybe like a little bit of a capture. Again, this would be something similar to Spidey. Spidey with his webs can actually grab you and pull you in. Maybe Kurt Wagner is his real name, can teleport in, grab an opponent, move them, and therefore, basically literally just kidnap an enemy player into a more vulnerable out of position, and then be able to go in there and do some attacks and teleport out right away. So again, yeah, Nightcrawler, I basically would be, through his teleportation power, would be another Spider-Man-esque type of character. High mobility, very large travel distance capabilities, and then be able to hit and get out fast. So that would be my way I probably would go with him. Again, this is one of those things where it's probably very obvious to go this route, but at the same time, I'm like, it's fun. It's okay. We're just going to do that. You know what I mean? So that's Nightcrawler. Next character on this wish list, Black Bolt, the king of the Inhumans, Blackagar Bolt again. I think hands down would be a great character to have in there. And yes, as you can see, a Vanguard, hands down. Black Bolt is one of those really cool and one of those characters. He's obscure enough that people don't realize his power, but this guy's gone toe to toe with characters like the Thing and Hulk. So it'd be perfect to have him as a Vanguard type of character. He's got the toughness, he's got the ability to lay down punishment. Ability is too much. I think that he'd probably be much more of a brawler type of a character. Is probably what I would go for. But especially with using certain elements like his energy manipulation, which is what the fork on his forehead helps him do. And maybe which uses it to like enhance his power, his physical ability, stuff like that. So I can imagine him getting himself into a charged up, similar to Emma Frost Diamond form kind of a thing, and just get in there and start in brawling and stuff like that. So that could be one way to do it. I think for his ultimate, one of the things that's most known about Black Bolt is his voice. He never speaks because his voice, even just whispering, can be devastating. A whisper itself can knock down a mountain with the sheer power of what the sonic powers of his voice can do. So I'm thinking his ultimate is definitely I can't remember the character's name, but there's a character in Paladins who is a tank, and his ultimate is this basically pushing laser beam. So this basically, it doesn't necessarily do a whole lot of damage. Its main thing is it can push, and so it's a full-on crowd control type of ability. So I can picture Black Bolt's voice being used in that way, and maybe we'll have it do a little bit more damage, or the longer you're in the beam or something like that, the damage over time. However, it's for if you're getting hit with it, maybe your character you have to move your character out of the way, but it's like a torrent of water kind of a thing. These are the analogies I'm trying to work with here, where the force is hitting you. It's getting tough to get out of the way, and as you're getting out of the way, you're taking damage, but you're also getting shoved who knows where. So obviously it's one of those things where if you're on the right map and you're pointing to basically a pit or getting off the map and then just hit the ultimate and just like let Black Bolt's voice just shove everybody off, that could probably do a whole lot of, maybe even kill a whole team kind of a thing. So that's how I would have for Black Bolt. Again, more of like, so similar to the Thing and Emma Frost, where he can like power up his defense to get in there, maybe power up his damage, and then his ult is his voice going in there. And so yeah, I think that could be a real cool way to bring him in and let him power up or I should say add to the Vanguard roster. Next, Photon. Okay, so we begin the introductions. Here's a little bit of spoiler. Yes, all three of the Marvels are going to be in this wish list. First one, Monica Rambeau, aka Photon. Yes, as a strategist, as a healer, so basic energy manipulation capabilities. And I'm kind of picturing it as that she does some cool healing, but because she's Photon and because her energy manipulation powers, maybe have it be like a really cool, beautiful, like one of her names was Spectrum. So I'm thinking of like rainbows, so like the spectrum of light and stuff like that, spectrum of energy and lights and stuff like that. Let that be the means. So to be fair, it's not. I'm thinking of her maybe being similar to what we've seen with like Luna Snow, where like she's a character that can do lots of nice burst heals and stuff like that, but just with the great beautiful like colors of the rainbow kind of a thing, and the wide variety of that. And so I'm thinking maybe something like do some stuff such as some little bit of healing over time, as well as some burst heals kind of a thing. So it'd be really cool to see that play out and stuff like that. And as I think about it, I'm thinking, I mean, we kind of already see it, but maybe we have her be a bit of a similar to Ultron, where she's a flying type of healer. But or maybe she just floats. Maybe she's a floating when she moves around. I'm also thinking of that character. What's his name? Zenyatta from Overwatch, I think. Which, but then again, we've already seen that with like Mantis and Luna Snow, where as they travel, they're healing during their ultimate and stuff like that. So perhaps we do something similar. Perhaps some of her abilities can be with boosting teammates' defense. So it's not just straight healing, it's also going to be defensive protections. So I think that'd be a cool way to bring her about. And so yeah, I think that'd be really cool. I think having all three of the Marvels showing up would be really nice. And so yeah, Photon as strategist. And Ms. Marvel coming in as a Vanguard. So yeah, absolutely. Kamala Khan coming in here. I'm thinking of I keep thinking of her being similar to a brawler, but because of her shape changing capabilities, that would make things a little interesting, where she could be a bit of a brawler but also be one that can provide protection. Like for example, basically as she's able to make her hands increase in size, that'd be a bit of a shield kind of thing. So we're sort of being like a brawling Groot to a degree, but the wall isn't something that just you place. Her hand is the wall kind of a thing. And so I can sort of see that being a fun way of doing it. And we've kind of seen also a little bit of that sort of thing with Mr. Fantastic. So Mr. Fantastic would be a stretching, size-changing type of character for duelist category, and Kamala being one that would be important for the Vanguard section. And I'm thinking also something along the lines of being really great at like I said, brawling, but because of her size, being able to do much more in terms of area of effect type of move. So like a spin with her like big old hands just knocking people away and stuff like that. That could be really cool and nice. And her ultimate perhaps being a bit more in control. So Mr. Fantastic, he bounces as he gets large. Maybe for Kamala, it'd be something a little bit similar to Hulk, where she expands herself to be like somewhat taller. I'm thinking sort of similar to like the of that Marvel's Avengers, like that really poorly done Marvel's Avengers action RPG we had, where Kamala was in there, and her just like getting large in size, just starts smacking people around, kind of a thing. Um, Maybe have it be where, as opposed to Hulk was like very in control, Kamala just bum rushes into a direction with like big old hands, and like she's tall and stuff like that, just starts smashing, knocking people away. Again, as a nice way to sort of like bulldoze her way forward, and then a team can follow in after her while she pops her ult. So that could be something that I think could be cool. Yes, for the record, there's varying degrees of how their powers would be working and stuff like that to this. But yeah, I would love to see Kamala show up. I think that could be cool and fun, and so I definitely have to have her in. And of course, the lady herself, Carol Danvers, Captain Marvel, and yes, as another Vanguard. What? No, yes, we're not going to have her be DPS. So no. Yeah, so no, that means the other character I mentioned earlier, who is a duelist that I've selected, nope, we have not come to them yet. Captain Marvel will not be in that one. Now, Captain Marvel is going to be interesting in that I can see her possibly more of a flyer, a flying type of tank. So I'm thinking maybe something like for her, make her unique. Oh, it's a great picture, ain't it? Yeah, that's her. I believe if I recall correct, this is her current costume too in the comics. So there you go. I think it works, and I like it. I like it a lot. So, so I'm thinking, yeah, for Captain Marvel, perhaps make her a flyer similar to Angela. But then instead of Angela being all up in your face with melee attacks, Captain Marvel will be much more of like in your face with projectile abilities. Now, obviously that means, wait a minute, if you got a Vanguard hanging up top, wouldn't that just make her like an Iron Man type of a thing, but with Vanguard HP? That's kind of bullshit. No. 2 reasons. Number 1, well, to be fair, if we did want to go that route, Angela has some of the, I think Angela has the lowest max HP or standard HP of the Vanguard class. So technically you could do that with Captain Marvel. However, number 2, I'm thinking one of those things where maybe, yes, she could fly, she could do some dive bombing, but only certain abilities are like the long range projectiles. Maybe her default attack is more like similar to the Force gun from Dead Space, or like a shotgun type of a blast. Which, by the way, I remember seeing from one of her attacks in the Ultimate Alliance video game. So, which was like a sort of like just, I think it was like a quasi slap, but an energy blast. That, again, it's like the range of a shotgun. So maybe we have her do something like that. That way, she could fly up there, fly forward, do some much more like I said, shotgun range type of abilities. And then, of course, because she is the way she is, we gotta have energy absorption. So as she's taking damage, something like that, we can have her power up in ways where a lot of her abilities expand, which would be similar to Mr. Fantastic, actually. But for her, it'll be more probably a straight buff in terms of range, effectiveness, and maybe in some attacks and stuff like that. So, and even she can go for her ultimate, going full binary and just like blasting the shit, like exploding like a nuke or something like that. So I think that Carol can be a lot of fun, and yes, in order to avoid spamming and making more duelists into this game that already has a whole lot of duelists in the roster, yeah, let's keep her as a Vanguard along with Kamala. Which actually is kind of a cool thing, because that means that you could have her and Kamala being like, Kamala's being like, her fan and whatnot. Then it'd be kind of cool of them being able to work together being Vanguards, kind of a thing. So it sort of works as the hero slash aspiring fan and student, learning with each other and working with each other if you had them both. So naturally that means that, you're going to want to have some kind of a team up with them. And that could be really awesome to have. So maybe Captain Marvel's the anchor. Kamala is the one who gets like she can activate an energy enhancement to her moves, similar to which in game will have it reflect her MCU powers, and that's just because of the team up from Captain Marvel. Like Captain Marvel is like powering her up with some energy, and she takes them and she just runs with it, kind of a thing. So we have something like that be the way we go. So, next character. Dr. Voodoo. Yes, and as a strategist. So, it is another character who's rather obscure. In fact, it's so obscure that the picture I have right here, you see him calling himself Brother Voodoo, which is what his previous name was, until he achieved the rank of Sorcerer Supreme, if I remember correctly, which he is a powerful magic user. That, yes, he did have the rank of Sorcerer Supreme after Doctor Strange had lost it once. So, having Dr. Voodoo come in here and being a strategist would totally work. Now, for him, I'm sort of picturing his abilities being something similar to the character Grok from Paladins. So Grok was this little I don't even know what to describe him. I don't know if it was like a troll or something like that. He was a cute little like troll dude, and the thing that was cool about him was that his healing was with totems. So he would drop these totems into an area, and which would basically be similar to Loki for the Marvel Rivals folks. So Loki has his illusions, and then when he pops the stones, each of his illusions is basically a section, an area of healing. For Grok, it was something similar to that, except he didn't have to be there. It wasn't illusions. He just planted a totem. I'm gonna put a totem right here. There you go. So totems there is like a sort of healing location with an area of effect of heals. So I was thinking of Dr. Voodoo being something similar to that, being able to drop totems around. Now, for Ultimate, I'm thinking, especially considering we're talking about voodoo and stuff like that, what if for Dr. Voodoo we have a no-kill zone? Now, this is another thing I remember seeing from an ability I saw in in Warhammer 40,000 Dawn of War 2, the RTS game. Essentially, what's going to be is that here's a barrier. I know, right? Yeah, he is. He's got a cool look to it, which would be really cool to see out there in the game. So basically what I'm thinking of, maybe it's an area around him, or maybe it plants an area, or maybe it's just like emits it across all of his teammates. Basically what's going to be is a no-kill zone, or a no-kill period of time. So within this time limit of this ultimate, none of his teammates can die. They don't gain health. It's not a healing thing. It's straight up just don't die. Which means every person, like if, let's say for sake of armor, you're getting rolled, he pops his ult, all 6 of you now cannot die. You basically will go all the way down to 1 HP, and when the ult finishes, that's it. You are at 1 HP. So there is a risk of here, which is if you're not careful with your timing, if you're not careful with your heals, then that means that your whole team is like, it's not a guarantee save. Because once it wears off, boom, that's it. You've got to get yourselves healed back up. Which I think is a nice way of like sort of similar to Adam Warlock, where if you get resurrected, if I recall correctly, you're not resurrected with full health. You're resurrected with a little bit of health, a little bit of bonus health after a buff they gave him, and that's basically it. But you can die real quick if someone is not careful or if things go the wrong way. So I'm thinking for Dr. Voodoo, we do the same kind of a thing, except that no resurrection. You're just right there, you're fighting, you're not going to die, but you're going to go down to 1 HP, which means that if you guys don't play this right, and if the healers are not on top of the healing just right, you're basically going to, all you've done is buy yourself time. That's it. And you might not have bought yourself enough time for it to mean anything. So I think that would be a cool way to bring him in and have him be a healer for the team. And so, yeah, let's see here. Next character. She-Hulk. Yes, I have to bring my girl, Jennifer Walters. I got to bring her in here. Absolutely. We already have one Hulk. We need the other one. Let's go. We need She-Hulk in here for sure. Yes, she will be Vanguard. She'll be similar to a brawler. For a lot of inspiration for her moves, I'm actually looking to the Marvelous Capcom fighting games, actually. Specifically her entry in Marvel's Capcom 3, which is when she was introduced right there. So I'm thinking of a couple of things. Maybe we can go with grabbing one move from Marvel's Capcom 3 was she basically would take a flagpole and like beat you with it, or like hit you once with it. That was an attack that she did. Maybe we do something similar. I was also thinking about it being customized. So for example, if you're in Asgard, it's more like a piece of like a pillar from like Asgardian architecture. If it's in New York, then yeah, that'll be a traffic light pole. regular piece of like rock pillar from the caves of Hydra and just hit, and that could be like a big old air of effect, in front of her. So as means of her making space, just like like a big old baseball bat, knocking a bunch of folks and doing some damage and pushing forward. Let's see here. It could also be a thing where, because she is a Hulk, then her taking damage, stuff like that, sort of powers her up a bit of a meter, similar to also to Captain Marvel. And we could do is have it be similar to when Iron Fist pops his ult, you see that his fist, like his range of his fists sort of are increased due to the energy he's giving off. So we could have her do something similar to that one. But again, it's more of an enhanced state. And so I think that'd be a great way to do it. Her ultimate, I actually initially was thinking it would have been cool if they did her being souped up, because that is part of the comics where she had a moment where she was basically like monstrous savage Hulk like. However, we kind of already have that because we have Bruce, her cousin, and the Hulk doing that for his ultimate. So instead I'm like, okay, let's take from his repertoire. And so basically we're going to give her the Gamma Crush and combine it with the Gamma Ray. So what is that? What am I talking about? Okay, so in Marvel's Capcom 2, actually, well, since the Hulk was introduced, one of the things that he does is one of his hyper combos or ultimate abilities is called the Gamma Crush. It has two phases. If the first phase hits, then it sets up for maximum damage of the second phase. But it's not necessary. What he does, first things first, he squats down, arms up, ready to do a super massive jump. So he does that. If your opponent is by you and doesn't block, they get hit while he's going up into the air and knocked down to the ground, ready for the next phase. Okay? So how it's working, he leaps up into orbit, or up into space, and comes crashing down with a freaking asteroid, and he slams into the ground. Now, if your opponent isn't blocking, isn't careful, that attack will still do damage. But if you hit them with the first part of the ability, they're on the ground, they're taking the full brunt of the damage, and you're good to go. Okay? And also is the best way for you to be able not to be punished for attempting the move. Okay? So that's what we're going to do right here. She-Hulk is going to leap up into the orbit, wherever it is, whether it's on Asgard, where it's like in Tokyo 2099, or whatever. She's going to grab something out of orbit or out in space and crash it down onto the map. And it'll be a thing similar to we see Jeff and Storm, where they target where they're going to be, where they're going to hit their ability. And so she will crash down with this debris. And then there will be a little bit of rain coming along with it. Now, rain of other pieces of debris coming down along for the ride. And so this would be great for, obviously, a big old boom, also sort of closing off for a little bit amount of time, closing off the area, being a little too dangerous, because here you go, you're all getting hit by, if not the initial blast, then the space debris hitting the ground. So I think that would be the right way to have her, because her ultimate. And of course, I'm thinking also that it's had to be customized too. If you're in, for example, New York, it's a satellite. If it's in Asgard, a piece of rock, that kind of a thing. If you're, and then 2099, make it be a satellite, but maybe a satellite that's sort of themed to the 2099 universe. Any one of these things, you know what I mean? So if it's on Earth or something like that, it's a satellite. If it's off Earth, we pick something else. But yeah, I think that'd be a really cool thing. Like I said, it'll be one of those things where she's a bit of a brawler. Now, when I bring up the whole thing with, for example, her using something as a big old baseball bat, knocking people away. Excuse me. That does bring up the issue of the current changes to crowd control that exists right now in Rivals. So this may be a thing where some of the abilities that could be designed for her, would be tough because of, as the CC thing kicks in, as people become immune, it may be a thing where her kit becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. Similar to Rogue and similar to the Thing. So that is something to consider, but this is, again, sort of like, some basic ideas of what I think would be really cool for her. And of course, the CC stuff that they've done with Rivals right now, it could be adjusted by time she's created or put out there by people who are more than like very very likely smarter than I am. So, but yeah, that's how I do She-Hulk. Shang-Chi. That's right, the master of Kung Fu, and we're going to make him a strategist for this one. Hell yeah. Now, a bit of behind the scenes. I thought about bringing him only because I was inspired by other people talking about, hey, when are we getting a Shang-Chi Part 2? I know, right? Yeah. So yeah, a Shang-Chi Part 2 would be great. And so I thought, wait a minute, what if we bring him in? What if, bring in the Master of Kung Fu. And I'm bringing that up because that was his nickname. And also the title of his book, if I recall correctly, a while back in the 70s and 80s when he was created. So yeah, I think it'd be really cool to have that happen and bring him in. And bring him in as a strategist. So he would basically, some aspects of him would be similar to like Iron Fist, whereas Iron Fist is much more of the duelist type. Then we have a strategist, representative of the martial arts. Now, as you're seeing on screen with this image, yes, the 10 rings exist in the Marvel comic book universe after the movie came out. So this is one of those things where the movies introduced something and the comic books brought it in from inspiration from that. So yes, the 10 rings do appear, and they are under Shang-Chi's control. So we will bring that in here. And this is where I'm basically thinking to myself, okay, this is how we do it. First and foremost, the rings offer different types of abilities and for like each one, depending on what Shang-Chi wants to do. So let's have him be similar to Zenyatta from Overwatch. If I recall, Zenyatta, what he does is he puts one of these orbs that he has around him onto a teammate, and that does healing. Similar to Ultron and his drone. So, what we can do with Shang-Chi is that each ring, he can put a certain number of rings onto teammates, giving certain abilities. Whether it's healing, maybe buffing damage, or maybe buffing defense, stuff like that. Maybe even one that buffs how many heals you get, you know what I mean? So, similar to Jeff's bubbles. And I'm also thinking of another thing, too. A lot of times, many of the characters, NetEase loves to make them where they have to manage resources of themselves, their own characters. 1 second, sorry. What if we have Shang-Chi do that as well? What I mean by that, when he's going his basic attacks and basic work, he uses the rings, similar to what we see in the movie. Okay? Now, as he's giving rings away to do stuff, he loses his range, and so if he has all of his rings out to his teammates, he's a strictly full-blown in-your-face melee fighter, similar to how Iron Fist is. So this is one of those things where like you're sort of managing how many rings you want out, and I'm also thinking it's somewhat inspired, similar to like from Killing Floor, the game Killing Floor. Killing Floor 2, when you're building up your medic, there is a path of building up your medic where it's much more a bit selfish, doing certain where you're doing a little bit more about damage, a little bit more damage, a little bit more fighting, whereas the other one is strictly all about buffs to your healing output. So we could have this kind of a thing mid-match for Shang-Chi. So the more rings he puts out, the more abilities he's giving to teammates, but he's now more strict in terms of what he can do on his own, whether it's self-defense or whatnot. But if he has all the rings on him, then he's fighting that big old long range that we saw at the end of the movie. That whole the thing when he had all the rings on him. That's the kind of stuff we could have for him. And I think that's one of those things where it'd be kind of cool of managing how many rings you put out, recalling the rings to yourself for self-defense, putting them back out, and stuff like that. And then for Ultimate, I don't know. I mean, Ultimate we could do where like I don't know, maybe have the ring set up in front, and if it'd be really cooperative where the ring set up and it basically powers up characters to go through it or something like that. Like a full-on rushing type of Ultimate kind of a thing, where as you go through the rings, you're powered up, you're strong, and then your teammates will just go through and then be able to hammer through certain positions. So it's sort of like breaking the lines, kind of an Ultimate maybe is what we would go with, because they can expand in size and stuff like that. So maybe we do something like that. But yeah, I think that could be a cool way to bring him and the rings as a strategist. And so, yep, that's my thought for him. Is that all of it? Yeah, I think that's all I can think of. Beast Henry McCoy. Absolutely gotta have him. He is such a fun, cool character. And yes, as a strategist. Fun behind the scenes fact. Me and Kate Nyberg were talking about this. She mentioned wanting Beast as a Vanguard. And to me, I was like, oh, I mean, that would be a great idea. My first thought was strategist, said her first thought was Vanguard. Now, we both came from the same idea, being that, especially if you remember from the X-Men cartoon, he had this little tech pack that he would carry with him. And so, to me, for her, it was like using devices which would be able to do Vanguard type stuff, like maybe put up shields or something like that. And I thought, no, that's a great idea too. For me, I had a different take where I would basically make Beast a bit of a combination of certain characters, specifically the healer Baptiste from Overwatch, and a big chunk of him, though, will be based on the character of Pip from Paladins. Now, Pip is this little squirrel dude, maybe not a squirrel, but a little rodent dude who is a scientist in the world of Paladins, and what he does I think will lend really well. First off, he has a weapon which basically sort of like a little grenade launcher that when it blasts, it hits teammates, it heals, hits enemies, it hurts. So that'd be something similar to Baptiste from Overwatch, where basically firing off these little grenade launcher kind of a thing, which gives heals to teammates. Another thing, which is a big thing, Beast is known because he is an incredible acrobatic character. Okay? And so basically what Pip does is he has one ability where he basically bunny hops. You know, you activate it and he starts bunny hopping now, like automatically. And so this helps is to make it more difficult for him to be hit. And so if we can implement that kind of thing for Beast, maybe even include, let's say, a damage reduction when he activates that ability, that, you know, symbolizing that, hey, he's being in a very acrobatic right now, making it more difficult to hit. And so this is a way for him to go around, be an in-your-face, right upside with the frontline healer type of a character. Even being able to throw healing grenades. Again, this is one similar to what I would think of from like Killing Floor. The medic in Killing Floor, they have a healing grenade in Killing Floor 2. So you send that out there and, you know, be able to do heals that way. So basically a little area of effect of healing by throwing the grenade over there. And so that's basically like some of the ideas I thought that could be good for him. Ultimate basically combines all this, being able to bounce around, and where Mr. Fantastic, when he bounces, like in his ultimate, instead of doing damage, Beast would be bouncing around, dropping grenades, doing healing grenades, doing heals. Also, his tech pack could also be a thing where maybe it sprays like stun foam or crowd control foam, you know what I mean, on a character. So that would help with like sort of like, again, as a CC ability to help out teammates. Maybe something that does buffs, grenades that do buffs, or similar. Again, let's stick with the Killing Floor analogy. I think Anna also has this kind of ability where it's a grenade that will basically do poison or reduce healing for enemies, but heal teammates. Maybe they do that kind of a thing, and combined with, you know, Beast being able to bounce around and stuff like that. So again, sort of imagining Beast as a bit of a, similar to Shang-Chi, perhaps more on the front line, like field medic, you know, like warrior medic type of characters. Blue Marvel. Okay, so Adam Bashir, this is a basic question of what if Superman was black? And also during the 60s. This is an actual part of his character history, if I recall correctly. So, basically, he is essentially a black Superman. So it'll be a similar character to Magneto, in my opinion, where he has energy manipulation, and I'm thinking him emitting an energy field around him, like a circle around him, that allows him to push forward with teammates along with him. We don't have too many S.H.I.E.L.D. characters in this game, in my opinion. Many of the characters are brawlers and stuff like that, so I would like to see Blue Marvel and his abilities and energy manipulation abilities being something where he can, like, sort of, again, move forward with the team, providing shielding or providing a big old shield or walling and then a mobile wall kind of a thing, and just go forward with the team. I'm also thinking for the ultimate, perhaps doing something similar to Lifeline, the character Lifeline from Apex Legends, where it's basically a dome that forces enemies off or makes it difficult to get in. You know what I mean? So we have with Invisible Woman, where if you're inside her field, you're moving slow. Maybe it's slow to get once you cross the barrier, but once you're in, you're okay. But going in and out is where you're slow. Maybe we do something like that for him, and therefore be allow him to again be one of those energy protector type of character, shield protector type of tanks. So yeah, because again, we really don't have a lot of those. We really don't. You know what I mean? So that would be my guess for him. Clea. Definitely would love to have her in there. The wife of Doctor Strange, and also the Sorcerer Supreme of the Dark Dimension. I believe she's actually related to Dormammu, one of Doctor Strange's biggest enemies. So I sort of see this as a pairing of husband and wife, where husband is the vanguard, he's a tank, and wife is the strategist along his next to him. So I'm thinking what we could do for her, because again she's doing a sorcery and sorcery for the Dark Dimension. Maybe we do things like, as he's holding up the field, she's putting out she's sending out I guess demons or summoning demons or something like that. Summoning spells that do more of debuffing enemies, and it's opposed to buffing. But so she has some healing, but maybe doing some debuffing to enemies. That's her thing. And that's being so basically helping you by doing the debuffing to the enemies, similar to Cloak, when Cloak does that dark veil, and that hurts enemies. So maybe some blinding, maybe some putting people in the shadow type of stuff. Maybe her ult comes up there and just pulls enemies out and drops them down from pulls them down from dark hands, just grab you, pull you down, and then drops you from the sky or something like that, doing a serious amount of damage. Gravity did most of the work, kind of a thing. I think that could be a cool way to bring her about. Again, showing her origins from the Dark Dimension, but of course being something that can do a bunch of healing. Now, in terms of heals, I'm thinking, well, to be fair, I'm constantly going with the burst heal type of idea. So I think that'd be probably the better way to go about stuff. Let me see here. Oh, I can't remember the character's name, but the default healer from Paladins, what they do is they have the good old-fashioned black hole. Throw out a black hole, pulls enemies in, and thus makes them vulnerable to the more damaging ults and stuff like that. So maybe Clea can do something like that. Maybe have her do that one, or so that could be a thing. That could be cool. I don't know. It's kind of interesting. There's all kinds of ways you can do it. I could also think of her being a couple of zones where basically area of effect heals as well, opening portals to the Dark Dimension. I also thought of another thing too. So Doctor Strange, when he's doing attacks, he basically builds up dark energy and he has to expel it. What if we do something similar but in the reverse? So as she's doing more heals, it's something like that. Or as she's doing more heals, that's when she could do a damaging ability. So she's building up light energy, so maybe light energy would do a heal. So when she's doing damage, so she has a regular healing, and then she does a big old burst heal as she builds up enough light energy within her, or light magic within her. And so maybe that'll be a thing, because again, she comes from the Dark Dimension, so maybe we have a little play with that kind of a thing. Maybe it doesn't exactly work like that in the comics, but I'm sort of again, it's a little bit of Strange and her being a sort of both being of the same but opposite ends of the spectrum kind of a thing. So that's some of the stuff I was thinking about for her. It could be cool. And it's here! The other duelist character. We've gone through, I think there's 12 characters, and yes, this is the only other duelist character that I would throw out there for this, again, because of trying to avoid stacking too many duelists into this game that already has a lot of duelists. Okay? And that is, yes, Ghost Rider himself. We're going to bring him in to Marvel Rivals as a duelist. Now, As you can see, I am going to go with, despite the fact that Johnny Blaze is the original, Danny Ketch is also very well known, I'm going to go with Robbie Reyes as Ghost Rider to represent the Ghost Riders in this one. For the record, I have seen some really cool concept art by fans out there. The idea of, because there's multiple Ghost Riders, have a be similar to Deadpool, where you have a Ghost Rider for each role. I believe it was maybe Danny Ketch, Ghost Rider as a Vanguard, Johnny Blaze, the original, as the Duelist version, and Robbie being the Strategist version. So I have seen that. That's kind of cool of an idea, but I'm thinking to myself, let's stick with just one. I'm going to pick Robbie, okay? Why? Because I'm Latin, so therefore, I'm half Mexican, half Puerto Rican, so I wanted to go with the Mexican guy. You know what I'm saying? For the record, no shade whatsoever to Danny, no shade whatsoever to Johnny, okay? I'm going to go with Robbie. He's one of the most recent characters. Also, he's been having some decent pushes. He was in the Midnight Suns video game, and he was also being brought in for the upcoming Marvel fighting game developed by Arc System Works. Marvel, I forgot, Marvel Fighters Token, I believe it. I can't remember the full name of it. But yeah, that version of Ghost Rider is going to be there. So we're going to go with him. So, what are we going to do thinking for him? A couple of things. Number one, obviously closing off areas because of fire that he's working with. Now, here's another twist to it. One thing to keep in mind, Ghost Riders use Hellfire. Okay, it's not regular fire, does not conform to the laws of physics. Similar to magic, where her weapons and her abilities use soul fire, Ghost Riders use Hellfire. So, what does that mean? I'm thinking, not only do we have an area where damage over time occurs if you stay in there, similar to Johnny Storm's abilities, but we also have healing debuffs. You don't want to be in the flames because you're not only are you taking damage, you're also going to have some after effect of not healing, or not being able to be healed as much. So let's say a 25% reduction in heals. That means someone's giving you 100% heals, you're actually only getting 75. That kind of a thing. So we play with some of this mechanic a bit. We could also go along the lines of similar characters like Cloak and Dagger, Punisher, where there's two modes. I'm also thinking of the character Imani from Paladins, where we have him throwing out fireballs, and you charge with the fireball will have a little explosion, and leave a pit of fire right there for area denial, but also because it does damage. Perhaps even, again, a little bit of, you get a direct hit, you do some damage over time, and then maybe some reduced healing. You know what I mean? So that could be something that we have with it going on with it. The other mode, and for the record, by the way, just quick warning, we're going to have, in about 45 seconds, a ad break. I'm going to pause talking during that ad break. Yeah, just kind of heads up, 40 seconds. So that's one mode. The other mode, bringing out the chains and being a chain. So fireball is obviously a much more long range type of fighting, but if you want to go mid, then we bring out the chains and start doing like slashes with the chains and stuff like that. Maybe even do some like grabbing of an enemy character, or pull yourself to a character, especially with this other mechanic that I'm thinking of doing for Ghost Rider. And in about 10 seconds I will let you know. 10 seconds we have an ad break, and I will come back and I will let you know this other mechanic for Ghost Rider that I would totally want to do for him. Oh, it says everybody else getting an ad break because I'm being told there is an ad break, but I'm not seeing it. Maybe it's just me, but everybody else who's been in the chat has been like seeing the ad break. Okay. You never see when you're streaming. Oh, okay, cool. In that case, it's not just me. All right, cool. I'm like, 30 seconds. Cool, cool. Okay, let me know when the ad is done. Because I don't know if this thing's lying to me or not. It might totally be lying to me, I swear. Done? Okay, cool. Alright, so what I would like to do with Ghost Rider, the last thing I would like to do with him, would be to, again, it's one of the things where like there's another resource, another ability that you get track of and stuff like that when it comes to the characters in this game. And for this one, I'm thinking what we do is basically turn them into almost a comeback mechanic. Okay? So, how do we do that? I'm thinking we do, or at least a consequence of that, is by implementing what I'm going to call the Mark of Vengeance. Okay? So, what does that mean? What that means is that as an enemy team, or on an enemy team, if somebody is doing really well, like getting a whole lot of kills, and like someone's popping off, then Ghost Rider has the ability to go up to them and start taking them on. What I mean by that, how we do this. Okay, so I mentioned earlier about one mode is throwing out fireballs, throwing out flame ranged abilities that can do damage over time, area denial, and even some healing debuffing and stuff like that. And the other mode is chains and using melee weapons. So a little bit more of a mid to close range character. What if we do that and he does extra damage to an enemy player who's really popping off for the team? So someone's getting a lot of kills or accumulating a lot of damage, a lot of assists, a lot of these offensive stats. And you can see a little skull, a little flaming symbol build up above their head, more and more and more. What you'll do with the chains as you're attacking them, you'll get bonus damage against that specific player, that specific character. Okay, we're not having like being Hulk or She-Hulk where they can like power up and go, ham on everybody. No. You're going specifically against that one character. So let's say that Spidey is being a Spider-Man or a Daredevil is being a real pain in the ass. Okay, that's fine. Go up to them with the chains turned on. Now you're hitting from extra damage. You're going to punish them basically for being that way. And then, here's another kicker. We'll go into the ultimates. I'm thinking 2 ultimates for this character, depending on which mode you're in, or depending on whether or not certain qualifications are met. The specialty ult will be for somebody who's got full maxed out Mark of Vengeance. You can choose to switch to chain mode, hit the ult, and they will grab that enemy player and do the penance stare on them. An instant one hit, instant KO on them. No matter what is, there is no healing, there is no savior. Maybe the Brother Voodoo ult that I mentioned earlier would be the one thing that keeps them alive. Maybe, but I think for this one it'll be the one thing that actually counteracts it. And just straight up, boom, penance stare. That's it. Done. Guaranteed done. Now overall that sounds kind of wonky, but at the same time it's one of those things where like it's clearly not going to save the day. But it will, if a character's popping off, especially during a team fight, get them off the board and have to go through the respawns. Or force an enemy Adam Warlock to pop their ultimate to get them back into the fight. That kind of a thing. Okay? Now for those who do not know, the penance stare is when a Ghost Rider is able to basically look into your soul and put all the pain and anguish that you've caused, especially if you have guilt, turn it against you and basically kill you from the soul out. So basically, paying penance completely and utterly. So we're going to have that kind of an ability for against somebody with a full maxed out vengeance, mark of vengeance meter. Okay, the other one I was thinking of. It really depends on what you want to do for Ghost Rider. Like for example, for Robbie, what we can do is have him target a spot, and then his car, the Hell Charger, just comes flying out of nowhere behind him and just boom, just like nukes a location, damage over time, fire, total debuff to healing if you're in it or if you touch it for X amount of time. When you get away from it, you get out of the zone. If you're not instantly killed anyway, you know, that type of setup. Really bring out the flames and bring out that, yeah, the Ghost Rider is here and you are fucked. That kind of a thing. So I think that's probably what I would do. Like just just crazy, like, you know, off of a ramp kind of a thing. Here comes the Hell Charger, boom, and just crashes and explodes. That kind of thing. Flames everywhere, maybe a trail of flames along, you know what I mean? That kind of a thing. I was even thinking, like, for example, maybe you have Robbie, if you want to make him do a little bit of a compromise, where Robbie has a motorcycle in this mode as opposed to a car, where, you know, it be something like something based on the Dodge Tomahawk concept motorcycle that was made, because again, the Hell Charger is a Dodge Charger, so maybe the Dodge motorcycle being, you know, just tweaked up to be, you know, all crazy and Hell Cycle like for Robbie could be a way to do it. And then you could also do it where he like he'll just like rush forward and the flames left behind him does damage if you touch it, that kind of a thing. So those are some ideas, but I said the Mark of Vengeance one and the two different versions of alts and two different modes of combat are definitely some of the ones where I would probably go with. And also in chain mode, you can do with the chains, but also you could go with something like certain his rare imbuing objects with the Hellfire, souping them up. So, you know, maybe he grabs a sword, or he grabs a piece of debris, charges it up with, like, you know, with his Hellfire, and then starts whacking people with that for a special ability, or special attack, I should say. So maybe that'd be a way to do it. You know, so that's basically my guess and how I would go about doing it. Okay? And so, yeah, that is basically the last of the roster wish lists for Marvel Rivals. So, again, feel free to go ahead and comment about which characters you would like to see. Feel free to comment on, you know, are my choices or ideas for their abilities a little too safe? Go ahead and say so, you know, and we'll see what's up. Okay, feel free to comment in the comments. Okay, but we have time. We're going to actually go into the second topic that I'm going to talk with everybody about. Okay, and this is a fun one. This is actually my first idea, and then I literally whipped up this whole thing with the slides for the previous for the wish list roster like last night. I had the idea for a long time, but I finally actually got to, you know, bring it up here. Oh, I forgot about this one thing with Ghost Rider. One thing that could be cool for Ghost Rider is I haven't really talked too much about voice actors for the rest of the characters, but for Robbie, I think one thing that could be cool is bring back Gabriel Luna to voice him in this game. Okay, Gabriel Luna is the actor who played Robbie Reyes in season 4 of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, so in other words, he brought the MCU version of Robbie Reyes to life. Okay, so it'd be kind of cool to have him voice the character. Another thing that could also be really cool is, for the first time of the roster, because I don't believe any other character actually fully follows who follows this so far. But hang on, there we go. So how about if we actually bring in the MCU version of Robbie into Marvel Rivals? You know what I'm saying? So in other words, we're not actually, no, it's not hey, look, here's an MCU skin. Like we have a Spider-Man, we have an Iron Man, we have Loki with MCU skins, or skins based on their characters their versions of the characters in the MCU. How about bring Robbie himself from the MCU into the Marvel Rivals universe? So we could do that as a way to play with it, or just stick to his regular comic book version of himself. But yeah, if we're bringing Gabriel Luna, I think it could be cool to just have the actual actor and his version of the character and bring that to life again in version of him. So that could be kind of cool. But yeah, Okay, so yeah, next topic. Let's get going because I'm maybe running out of time. We'll see how it goes. But the next topic is how I would make a Marvel Studios Midnight Suns movie. Now, this like this was an idea that popped into my head quite some time ago, and I was finally able to sort of like make it manifest in what we're about to see right here. Now, basically, we're gonna go over this, and there'll be some parts where I bring up the news, that adjustments, latest news and stuff, concept and rumors that have been going around. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna talk about this one again. This is the idea of a movie or a mini-series project, that kind of a thing, and then we go from there. So this is how I would do it. But first things first. What are or who are the Midnight Suns? Well, first and foremost, the Midnight Suns, actually there's two ways of saying the name. One is Midnight Suns with the U, which you see up here, but there's also they started off as the Suns with an O. Okay? Excuse me. It starts with O, and I believe they've actually gone back to that in the comics, but anyway. So, who are they? The Midnight Suns are basically a group of superheroes that specifically deal with the realms of the supernatural and monsters, okay? And they themselves are characters who have dabblings within the supernatural and with the monstrous, okay? So, this is like a, Monster Avengers kind of a deal. Now, if this sounds familiar and you're thinking, hey, wait a minute, isn't that the same as the Justice League Dark? You are correct. This is very much like Justice League Dark. The one thing though is that this is similar to the Aquaman Namor situation, where the DC version of these characters, because there was the DC animated film Justice League Dark that came out, that hit the outside media, outside of comics media first, but it was made later. If I recall correctly, Justice League Dark came out roughly around time of the New 52, maybe post New 52, whereas the Midnight Suns from Marvel have been around since the 80s, if I recall correctly. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, folks. All right? So, basically, my concept was, okay, let's get into a monster movie type of vibe from Marvel, get more into the supernatural, more into the scary, more into the monstrous, and let's give it a go. All right? So I thought a Midnight Suns movie or a Midnight Suns miniseries project would be the right way to do it. Okay? And by the way, when I say miniseries, I'm talking we're like full on like hour-long episodes kind of a thing. You know what I mean? Like, let's go in deep if we can. And if we can't, that's okay. All right. The story for this one, I'm basically taking inspiration from the first story of the Midnight Suns, the debut story, Rise of the Midnight Suns. And basically, this was a story that had involved the hang on, is this thing not working? There we go. Basically, Lilith, the mother of demons, the mother of monsters, has landed on Earth, and now she's wanting to go ahead and take over by unleashing what's called the Lilin, aka her children. So she's got herself an army of creatures, bringing them to herself, consolidating power in order to go full invasion to conquer the world and make it into a realm of darkness and demonic fun times. You know what I mean? That kind of a thing. So basically, the Midnight Suns are a group of characters that came together to take her on. Now, here's the thing about it, though, which I'm going to be changing up for this story. I'm kind of going to go with a different route, and that route that's going to be different is that in the original story, the Midnight Suns were like all like descendants or the next generation of certain characters that fought Lilith in the past. So there's a little bit of a destiny kind of a thing, and I'm like, I'd rather not. I'd rather go with the good old fashioned, here's a group of characters coming together to take on this threat and stuff like that. Okay? No problem, Crimson. So, yeah. So taking on Lilith in that way, I think is what we're going to go with. Just a group of characters coming together to take her on and then hopefully defeat her and protect the world. Okay? And so, yeah, that's my vibe about it. That's how I would like to do it. Remove the destiny element. Just have these characters be together. Also like to explore and talk with many of the demons and stuff like that. That way we have good characters that you want to take on and fight and stuff like that. And so, yeah, because characters are going to be a huge deal with this, especially because there's so many, you know? So, yeah. Which is also part of the reason why I'm thinking having it be like a big old mini-series would be the best way. That way, you know, we have time to develop these characters, the villains especially, as well as these heroes. All right. So let's jump right on in. We're going to talk about the roster. All right. Now, the asterisk you're seeing right here is to remind me to let you all know that I put a limit on the roster choices. This limit is designed, I'll just explain the limit. The limit is going to be, we're going to focus on characters that have already had some kind of introduction to the MCU. So established, quasi-established to established characters, or characters that just about established in the MCU. That's what we're going to go with, and we're going to stick to. There's one or two characters that I'm like, wait. No, I think it's just one character that that it has not been established yet, and we're going to get to it. But this is basically the main thing I want to stick with, keeping to characters that people already know, and that way it helps to make sure that we're not bombarding too much of, here's new people that we have to introduce. No, you have some people you already introduced, maybe do some updates with them, that kind of thing, but no, we're good. We're good, okay? So, first up is going to be the man who actually got the characters together in the first place, and that's going to be Doctor Strange. So yes, Sorcerer Supreme, we're going to have him come in here. He's going to be the one that rallies everybody together. He's going to be the one that's detecting the rise of Lilith, and therefore he has to go and recruit this roster of characters. Again, monsters fighting monsters kind of a thing. Or those who specialize in the fighting of monsters and teaming up together. Okay, so yeah, we're going to have Doctor Strange do that. Obviously, that means he's going to be a big old heavy hitter when it comes to magic. When you talk about Lilith, the mother of demons, and then bring other demons with real powerful abilities, so therefore bringing in someone as strong as Doctor Strange would be obviously a good thing to do to really make sure we have a good going fight. Okay, so yeah, hands down, Doctor Strange, we got to kick things off strong. He'll be the one bringing everybody together. Next character, Moon Knight. Hell yeah, let's get Isaac out here to go ahead and reprise, or Oscar Isaac to reprise his role, and go ahead and bring Moon Knight back, bring back Mark and everybody else, all the personalities in his head. Let's bring him in here. It'd be a cool thing. He's dealt with creatures of supernatural before, so why not bring him in? In fact, this also could be a bit of fun because we're also going to be talking about and dealing with Khonshu, the god that he's the avatar for. So that could be a thing of conflict within the team, where Khonshu maybe doesn't agree with certain things. He tells Moon Knight to do one thing, maybe Moon Knight doesn't want to. You know, maybe there's a whole like having to deal with Khonshu and negotiate with him directly as opposed to Moon Knight. You know, it's one of those things where it could be a bit of fun in that way. You know what I mean? So again, or it could also be a great thing where like Khonshu's like, no, hell yeah, fuck Lilith, man, let's go. I'm a god of vengeance. Let's do this. You know what I mean? So let's go ahead and just like, unleash. Go ahead, my avatar, unleash whatever it is you can on these motherfuckers. So that could be a lot of fun. So bringing Moon Knight in there, a lot of fun. Definitely a lot of conflict. Again, bring in the Khonshu and what that could mean for the team. I think that could make things, the dynamic, very interesting. Blade. Okay. Now, this is where we're into the part I mentioned before about breaking my rule, but also this is going to be the opportunity to bring up some of the latest information that has come out, or at the very least the rumors that are circulating. Okay, so here's the thing. Yes, I'm using the Wesley Snipes version of Blade. This is in fact how he looked in the first movie. Okay, so, but why not use Mahershala Ali? He's the one that's going to be the new Blade for the MCU. Well, it's because his movie has basically apparently hit development hell and has basically been like completely out of gas. The rumors going around is that Marvel is themselves talking about doing a Midnight Suns movie because they can't get a Blade movie off the ground. I don't know how you do that, because it's like, Marvel, you're really doing some, you're pulling a DC. Back when the MCU was first starting up, and it was like DC Warner Brothers executives will be all like, yeah, we haven't quite figured out how we're gonna do Wonder Woman, and the meme goes, here's Marvel, like here's a talking raccoon with a machine gun. It's like you're fumbling this. How is it so hard to have a dude that kills vampires and just happens to be black? Is that the problem? You know what I mean? It's like, come on now. You're like, how do you not have a black guy go that's been like, we already know, we already been exposed to it. We freaking love the character. How are you not able to do a Blade movie? Like, seriously. It's a dude going up there killing vampires. Done. That the public already recognizes. Done. You have a great actor in Mr. Ali. Get him in there. Get him into the suit. Let's go. Why? This really is not rocket science. It's really not. You know what I'm saying? So what the fuck? All right. So that's basically some of the things, and also some of the adjustments I had to make to as I present this. Okay. Marvel apparently has basically like fumbled handling of the development of a Blade movie. It's lasted so long. They said, "Fuck it. Let's do a Midnight Suns movie and introduce this version of Blade in this Midnight Suns movie," which is like, why? Now, to be fair, I'm doing the same thing. You know what I mean? As I'm throwing out this idea to you all. However, in my defense, or at least I think is the word of defense, is that, hey, like, it's only because you guys been fucking it up, okay? You know what I'm saying? It's like, come on now, it's Blade. He is known. Wesley Snipes had that fantastic cameo in Deadpool and Wolverine, you know, bringing his Blade back. I 100% agree with Ryan Reynolds that a Blade finale like Logan for Wesley Snipes' Blade is something that we should see. And then for Marvel, you were really disappointing me here with this shit. You're just disappointing me. There's no other way of saying it. Like, bro, come on now. It's Blade. Like, just fucking get it done, okay? Just fucking get it done. Okay, and yes, so yeah, when I do a Midnight Suns movie, sure. But, yeah, just use that as an excuse. Oh, we'll just do that. No. Come on now. You guys can do this, alright? So, anyway, like I said, Blade, hands down, he's a guy who knows fighting monsters, especially vampires. So, we could easily introduce a, like, vampire type of demon for Lilith, or maybe one that's, like, you know, clearly on the same vein as vampires, and that gives Blade something to really be able to contribute. But either way, he's fought creatures of the night so much that him being, like, you know, helping out with strategy and tactics could be a great thing. And also maybe development of technology, you know, and techs and gadgets for fighting demons and creatures like this. It could all work. Also, his abilities and strength as a day-walking vampire, half-vampire hybrid, a vampire. I'm sorry, it was a Dampier. There you go. That could also be great in terms of giving him a ability to go up against, you know, these kinds of creatures. So yeah, there we go. Blade, definitely want him on the team. Next one on the team, Nico Minoru. Now, Nico, we've actually seen a couple of times, for example, in other media, such as the Midnight Suns video game, and other Marvel video games. Also, a big thing right here, the MCU TV show, The Runaways, which I can't remember what show it was on. I don't remember what streaming service it was on. I don't think it was Hulu. Was it Hulu? I don't know. Feel free to correct me if I'm wrong. Anyway, she's a daughter of these two, like, magic cultists that are going to summon back their lord, the demon, to end the world. She, however, ran away along with the other characters who are also kids who are, hence why they're the runaways, the children of people who had evil intentions, stuff like that. She was on the run with them. She has the staff, which is one of the main things of her power. And so basically what we got right here is a nice little protege, up-and-coming magic user to bring to the team, to bring certain magics and abilities to the team. And so that'd be a big chunk of the reason why we bring her out here, okay? And again, yes, oh, by the way, for the record, I'm talking about all these characters who are established in the MCU in some way or another. I should have made it clear, it also means bringing back their actors, with the exception, obviously, of Wesley Snipes. Maybe he can't do it, or Ben Mahershala Ali, he's there. He is the upcoming Blade, so bring him in there and have him be there. Okay, so obviously with Nico, her actress, bring her back too. Whatever we gotta do. This is the magic fantasy world of how I would do it. So we're bringing everybody back, including her. Okay, so yeah, so this brings some more magic as magic users onto the team. Also, this could be a little thing where maybe she has joined Strange in his magic teachings and Magic Academy, which is something from the comics. So maybe we have her come in here at this point in the MCU where she's with him for that reason. Okay. Next up, Ghost Rider. Yes. And yes, as you see on the picture here, I'm talking about bringing back Robbie Reyes. Once again, that's what I'm going to favor right now. And yes, we're calling Gabriel Luna to come back and play the character again. Bring in some heavy firepower. Ghost Rider is one of those characters where virtually all of them are like underappreciated in terms of their power level. So I think it'd be really cool to have Robbie show up and really be able to, bring some fights, bring some heavy hitting power. And so I think that would be really nice to see. Now this picture I just left in here because this is Spirit Rider. She is Indigenous American, but also a Ghost Rider with similar abilities. In fact, she's been around since, I believe, the 1800s. So partially because of her ability as being a writer. I just left that in there because I really thought it was really cool, and the Ghost Riders are really awesome and stuff like that. So consider it some favoritism right here. Okay? Now, we're going to talk real quick about some honorable mentions. Okay? Basically, the 3 characters are introduced in the Werewolf by Night special on Disney Plus, which we have Man-Thing, Werewolf by Night, and Elsa Bloodstone. Yes, we saw Elsa Bloodstone be introduced in Marvel Rivals. So we're bringing maybe have her start to move towards her comic book version of herself. But yeah, these honorable mentions are folks that show up in a sequel, but also could be a thing where if you can't get certain characters, you can bring them in as replacements. So I should say maybe you can't get certain actors, then maybe you bring these folks in if they're available and have them come in as like substitutes and replacements. Okay. Last one though, there's still one more, and that is Magik from the movie New Mutants. And so the concept of, hey, maybe talk to Anya Taylor-Joy and see if she's willing to come back one more time. She could be a really cool, fun character to add into the roster. Especially if the other characters are about to finish off this listing with, if one of them can't show up, I would probably go with her. You know what I mean? Especially considering her whole thing with being with Limbo and the demon realm like that. So that'd be a nice little competition between her and Lilith. You know what I mean? So I think that would be a lot of fun. All right, here we go. We're jumping in here. This character is going to be could be a bit controversial, but I really like this idea in my head. Okay? She-Hulk. Oh yeah, that's right. I'm going there. Okay? So, what basically I would like to, my thoughts off for this idea. My idea is bring She-Hulk in, and we kind of have a quasi reboot of her, where we basically stick to the basics of superheroing and really cool action and really nice, really cool action and real nice choreography, real nice fighting, really cool feats. However, one thing I think would be kind of cool about this is that we have to remember when it comes to the Hulks, especially the original Hulk, is that there is the whole thing when he was created, it was the idea of Stanley put out there was that here is a monster that's actually a hero. So we could sort of blend that here with She-Hulk, maybe having a little bit of like a self-confidence questioning, especially as you're entering this realm with monsters. Maybe you had to do the typical, why are you like them? Along with Ghost Rider. Like, now maybe not Ghost Rider so much because they know what Ghost Rider is, but for her, the demons may be throwing that into their mind and messing with their mind a little bit. So that could be cool. I picked She-Hulk partially because being able to have a brawler type of character, one can get physically in there and literally go in there and start throwing and tussling with some of these demons, I think it'd be really great to do because she is an incredibly strong, very powerful character. Also, I think it'd be kind of cool to have the traditional two heroes meet each other. They have a misunderstanding and they wind up fighting. Have She-Hulk versus Ghost Rider. I kind of like to see that. You know what I'm saying? Also, her putting in She-Hulk, being a representative, because dealing with Hulk and his legal issues is a pain. So She-Hulk is the next best thing. And fortunately, it's also a great thing in and of itself. But anyway, one thing I'm thinking of is a little bit of a nod, because we have Doctor Strange already, a little bit of nod to the Secret Defenders team in the comics, where it was Doctor Strange, Hulk, and I believe it was also Namor, and sometimes Silver Surfer included into the roster. So She-Hulk and Doctor Strange would be a little bit representative. Also, for folks who watched the Justice League cartoon, the one episode when it was Doctor Fate, Aquaman, and Salman Grundy was a nod to that team up. So this is a little bit of a little wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Easter egg to that one too. So I kind of like the idea of having her in there. Now, from what I understand, Tatiana Maslany, I believe that's how you pronounce her name, there's some talk that she may not be coming back, especially after everything happened with Jimmy Kimmel and the controversy surrounding Jimmy Kimmel being pulled off the air by Disney. Tatiana was very much in support of it, saying shut down your Disney Plus subscriptions, so on and so forth. So she may have come back. At the same time, I've heard this rumor talk that Mary Elizabeth Winstead has been talked to by Marvel as perhaps replacing her. So we'll see which actress would step into the role. But yeah, having She-Hulk into the team, I think it would be kind of fun as a brawling type of a character. We could really get in there, the strip raw muscle, and still be a lot of fun too as she interacts with everybody else. All right, next one. This is a big one. This is a huge gamble type of a thing. Scarlet Witch coming back, being the final member of this team. Okay, again, this would be huge in terms of magical muscle and magical firepower. So this could be a thing of multiple ways. Either A, she's found that she was actually alive after the last movie she was in. Maybe she's working on redemption. Maybe because after everything that happened at the end of that movie, it could also be that she's being like recruited by the bad guys and stuff like that. So it's one of the things she could be acting like a wild card as she processes what happened with her. So there's a lot to go with in here. And so it's very interesting to see how that would play out. But as I said, she would be, along with Doctor Strange, a massive amount of muscle in terms of raw magic power. So that could be kind of cool to see and kind of cool to have happen and play out. So we're going to see how it goes. Feel again, comment. What do you think is a good idea? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think the story's over? What do you say? Now, because Elizabeth Olsen has said that basically she wants to come back with actual story, this may not be enough story. Being part of a team thing may not be enough story for her. So if she says no, and therefore you can't bring Scarlet Witch back, or you just don't want to because of the way the Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness ended, then who do you go with? And I have, I think, a pretty good substitute option to choose from, and that is Wiccan. I think this could be a great idea. If not the mother, how about the son? So I think Wiccan could be a great choice to bring in here. He can be a similar type of a character. Again, big muscle because he has a big muscle in terms of magic power, but also just learning more of the truth about what his mother did, especially following the Multiverse of Madness. So he's there with Doctor Strange. So perhaps him going on a journey to prove himself, or prove that the legacy of his mom is not all bad, because he is a part of her legacy. So that could be a fun thing to bring about. And then, not to mention also, it could be a real fun way, like him interact with Doctor Strange would be a great way to sort of fix some of the really terrible last 3 minutes of Agatha all along for him, which is to me was a little bullshit. That ending is really trash. It really is fucking trash. It pissed me off so much. So we could have a chance for this to get fixed with the help of Doctor Strange. Okay, so yeah, Wiccan being a part of the team, adding some magic muscle. It could even be better for him because he's young, and also, like I said, working on trying to present another element of legacy to Wanda's history, being him taking up that sort of work. So yeah, Wiccan I think could totally be a cool thing. Yes, that does mean dealing with Agatha Harkness and bringing her actress back as well. But again, like I said, with a little bit of nice little tweaks that I would do, that again would fix some of the shit from Agatha all along. So yeah, it would basically do everything just plain better. All right. Now, the big question, of course, is Lilith herself. Who is our main villainess? How do we do this? I basically was going through my head a lot of different female actresses, especially wanted ones who had been in show business for a long time. To show, and because I would think for Lilith, I would love to see her with this sort of experienced, wise lethality. part of her lethalness and dangerous is because she is not young, because she is old and experienced and wise, and so that's what makes her dangerous. You know what I mean? So my concept is finding actresses who would fill that role and be that type of experienced voice. Even those who are younger, like Billie Piper right here, one could argue she's too young, but actually, again, she's been in show business for a long time, so it's a matter of experience is more important than anything else. Heck, I even thought of some voice performers, like, for example, Jennifer Hale, you know what I mean, who's been in voice acting for a long time. So, like, yeah, having someone like her come in could be a cool thing. But in my head, I'm like, hold up. I had the perfect person in my face. What the hell was I thinking? What took me so long? My pick to be Lilith, the mother of demons, is Eva Green. I love Eva Green a lot. So I absolutely would love to see her take on the role and be the threat that brings these types of characters with these types of backgrounds together. I think it would be so much fun to see her. I really enjoy her, so let's go. Let's have her do it. Now, directors for the project, I have a couple with one final pick. Okay, first off, Sam Raimi. I don't think I need to introduce him too much, but if you look at his credentials around his picture, you basically see everything. He's got experience with superhero work, he's got experience with horror, and he even has experience within the MCU with the Doctor Strange sequel, Multiverse of Madness. So hands down, you know, the Spider-Man trilogy, Evil Dead movies, the guy knows his stuff. So absolutely, he definitely would qualify. Nia DaCosta. Now, this was a bit of a controversial thing because of her work with the Marvels. The Marvels is, in reality, regardless of what anybody's feelings about it, the lowest grossing Marvel film in the history of the franchise. However, she is a very reputable, she's building up reputation for her directorial roles, such as the Candyman reboot, the recent project 28 Day, or was it 20 years later, the Bone Temple and stuff like that. She has been gaining praise, so giving her another shot, I think, is not a bad idea. Now, the man she's worked with a lot, being Jordan Peele, is the person that's rumored to be gone to by Marvel to direct a Midnight Suns movie. So it's one of those things where instead of going for him, I'm thinking going to her. Now, what could be done is he could jump in and maybe be a producer, you know, to help out, to help shore things up, make things, you know, in terms of public relations and stuff like that. We can go with that. But at the same time, he is a very credible director. So having him be there to help out with, like, you know, again, in terms of reputation of the movie could be help. But to be honest, I think she deserves a decent shot to try again. And again, she's building up her repertoire with horror. And then now, because she has done work in the MCU, she knows how to work with superhero stuff. So there we go. I say let's go ahead and go with her. You know what I mean? But my final pick, the one I would go with for sure, is Guillermo del Toro. Hands down, yes, partially because he's a director of Mexican descent, so it'd be great to see another person of Latin culture, Latin heritage, come up and step into a big-time role like this one. But also, he himself also has great experience and reputation when it comes to these types of things. Horror, superheroes type action, and stuff like that. Monsters, we've got it right here, okay? He's worked with Blade, so he knows that character. Hellboy, the Hellboy series movies are practically like along the lines of this type of a film anyway. His version of Frankenstein, Pacific Rim, Pan's Labyrinth. The guy has got a roster of movies. He clearly thinks very seriously about it. He has a great love of horror and monsters. He even was like the host of like this anthology series on Netflix and for various horror directors and writers to present horror stories. So I think he would definitely be a big old asset and be really, really cool and contribute a lot to make a Midnight Suns movie or Midnight Suns project work. Okay? And that's it. That is my take on this idea of making a Marvel Studios Midnight Suns movie. Here is the roster for you all to see. Doctor Strange, Nico, Blade, Ghost Rider, She-Hulk, Moon Knight, and either Scarlet Witch or Wiccan. And if you really can't get either of those two, then Magic by Anya Taylor-Joy coming back and returning to the character. There you go. This is how I would do the Midnight Suns. Okay? So, some end credits we got going on right here. For example, this is end credits involving Midnight Suns. However, these credits would also apply very much to, at least warnings and notes to, the earlier section involving the Marvel Rivals characters. None of the art is us. None of these characters belong to us. No one's making any claims that they own anything. In fact, if your art or something like that is on here and you'd like to be credited, let us know. Get in contact with us and we'll go from there. But we claim nothing except for any real gaming type of materials. That's the only stuff that can be even remotely claimed. Everything else does not belong to any of us. Marvel, Disney, relevant subsidiaries, relevant companies that the merchandising is worked with, in case it's merchandising artwork that you're seeing that you saw during the course of this presentation. Don't come at us. No, we own nothing. It all belongs to their respective owners. Go to them for more information and for any kind of relevant business dealings. And thank you for joining me, everybody. I need to run because I am actually kind of late. I hope you guys enjoyed this presentation. Best of luck to the rest of the crew for tomorrow's Be Someone Superhero. So come and join us tomorrow. We are, again, going to be raising money for the ACLU. Very relevant organization to raise money for, considering these times. The ACLU is meant to fight for the civil rights of folks here in the United States of America. So go ahead and give them help, especially if you want to go ahead and push back against moves being made out there right now by the current administration and beyond. Okay? But yeah, those are my thoughts and opinions. You guys have yours. Enjoy them and go ahead and share them. Okay? And I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day, night. Okay? So with that being said, this is Saldus. Take care, everybody. Be safe. Good night and good luck.